In the middle of the solar system, the sun erupts with a massive flare, sending waves of energy racing toward the planets. Meanwhile, in Turkey, Armin is out on his boat, enjoying his job as a diver. After spending hours underwater, he meets his ex-girlfriend, Defne, who has come to see him with an offer. She invites him to join a deep-sea expedition to the Erebus Trench. However, when she mentions that the trip is sponsored by Yenilik Incorporated, his father's company, Armin is immediately against it. The conversation turns into an argument, but before leaving, Defne makes him promise to at least think about it. That evening, the solar flare destroys a satellite in space. Moving at high speed, the flare heads toward Mercury. At an airbase in Adana, Turkey's capital, an officer named Selik detects the unusual activity and reports it to her commander. The commander tells her to stay quiet while she informs the higher-ups. The next morning, Armin finds a mysterious file slipped under his door. Curious, he rushes to see Defne again. When he arrives, he finds her with her new fiancé, Kenan, making things awkward. Trying to stay focused, Armin asks for more details about the mission. Defne shows him maps and explains that his father is searching for a new fuel source. A lost location that hadn't been seen for 100 years has recently been rediscovered. Armin becomes excited. This place is home to Savalia savalia, a rare black coral he has always wanted to find but never could. This new discovery convinces Armin to accept the offer. That evening, he joins the rest of the crew and is happy to see familiar faces, Defne's assistant Rana, marine biologist Sem, and oceanographer Felix. However, his mood changes when he realizes Kenan is also part of the team. To make things worse, he gets a call from his father, but Armin refuses to believe his dad truly cares about him. Back at the airbase, Selik secretly listens in on a classified meeting. What she hears shocks her. Dangerous gamma rays are coming toward Earth, and humanity has very little time to prepare. Later, at home, Selik makes a call to her mother, warning her to hide underground before Thursday. But her superiors intercept the message. They immediately send soldiers to her house to stop her. Realizing the danger, Selik spots the approaching soldiers and quickly blocks her front door with furniture. She then escapes through the back, leaving her phone behind. By the time the soldiers break in, she is already driving away. Out at sea, Defne suggests a test dive before reaching the Erebus Trench to check their submarine's functionality. The entire crew joins her, while Kenan and the boat's captain stay behind. Before they descend, the captain warns them about strange activity in the ocean near Asia. However, authorities claim it's just due to a volcanic eruption, so the team continues with their dive. After spending several hours underwater, Armin suddenly sees a bright flash of light. This is unusual, as this deep in the ocean, everything should be completely dark. Sensing something is wrong, they return to the surface. But when they try to radio the boat, no one answers. Climbing aboard, they search the ship only to find it completely empty. On a laptop, they discover a video left behind by Kenan. In it, he explains that they received an emergency message from Asia, warning that the sun is killing everyone as it rises. Kenan and the others had no choice but to leave, heading toward a shelter in Coast Town. The group agrees to head to the same bunker as Kenan, but first, they need to return to the shore to charge the submarine. During their journey, the radar picks up something approaching them. They tense up, unsure of what it is. When they finally reach land, the entire area is completely deserted. There is no power, no movement, just eerie silence. At that moment, a massive military submarine rises from the water. The name on its side reads Yakima's S-245. Navy troops emerge, looking just as confused as the group. There is no power, no phone signal. Something is very wrong. Armin quickly explains what they know to Commander Irene. Meanwhile, Defne receives a satellite video message from Kenan. The footage shows pure chaos, people running in terror, screaming in the streets. They check the time. Sunrise is in 4 hours. Commander Irene and his second-in-command, Umut, gather the soldiers and order them to locate the bunker Kenan mentioned. Felix and Sem grab tools from the submarine and leave in a car, hoping to find the electrical system and restore power. Defne and Armin tell Rana to wait at the docks while they join the search. Just as they get into a car, Umut joins them. Moments later, a loud explosion shakes the docks. Rana panics and begins to cry, afraid she's going to die. Officer Yanka tries to comfort her, assuring her they will be okay. Meanwhile, Felix and Sem finally reach the electrical towers. The area is a wreck, wires are burned, and sparks flash dangerously from broken equipment. Still, they decide to try fixing it. Sem struggles to concentrate. His hands are shaking. Suddenly, a small bag falls from his pocket. Felix picks it up and realizes the truth: Sem has been using illegal stimulants. Frustrated, Felix decides it's safer if he takes over the repairs. Meanwhile, Armin's group arrives in Kos. The sight in front of them is horrifying. there's a fire burning, and bodies are scattered everywhere. All the bodies are completely burned from the inside. Following Keenan's last message, they enter a church. Inside, it's the same horrifying scene, lifeless bodies everywhere. Soon, the officers arrive and begin searching the town. Every corner they check is filled with the same disturbing sight. Suddenly, Officer Bari starts feeling sick and vomits. Armin finds a pair of thermal binoculars in an abandoned car and scans the area, searching for any survivors. But there's no movement. At that moment, the officers report that they've found someone inside a bank vault. Armin, Defn, and Umut rush over. Inside, they find a man speaking ancient Greek. Luckily, Armin understands the language. He speaks with the survivor and learns that he only lived because he was underground, in a vault made of lead. The man keeps repeating something strange: everyone is wrong. A medical officer examines him and reports that he has internal bleeding and is barely breathing. Without hesitation, Umut shoots the man. Armin is furious. He shouts at Umut, demanding to know why he did that. Umut simply responds, "It was mercy." With no time to argue, the officers decide to return to the docks and hide in the submarine. But Defn refuses to leave without Keenan. Umut gives her and Armin 30 minutes to come back before the submarine submerges. Back at the bank, some officers start stuffing bags of money into their pockets, arguing that the owners are already dead. The fight at the bank quickly turns violent. At that moment, Felix restores the power, which suddenly activates the bank security system. The heavy vault doors start closing, trapping several officers inside. One of the officers outside tries to help them, but as the doors shut, he's forced to step back, unable to save them. Meanwhile, back at the docks, Felix and Sem return safely. Rana checks online and finds a new report from scientists. According to their research, the disaster is due to a shift in the sun's polarity. This shift happens every 11 years, but this time, it was much stronger than usual. The event triggered massive eruptions, sending out the deadly gamma rays. In Kos, loudspeakers suddenly blare the evacuation signal, announcing a shelter in Tagaki. Without hesitation, Defn and Armin rush there. But when they arrive, their hearts sink. The shelter is full of bodies. Among them is Keenan. Armin picks up Keenan's phone and plays his final video. The footage shows everyone in the shelter suddenly combusting from the inside, all at the same time. Defn completely breaks down, sobbing in shock. But there's no time to grieve, the sun is about to rise. With no other choice, the duo jumps into their car and speeds toward the docks. They arrive just as the submarine is preparing to leave. Umut sees them but coldly closes the hatch, refusing to let them in. Armin leaps onto the submarine, pounding on the hatch. His friends inside hear him, and Yanka quickly opens it, pulling them to safety just in time. The submarine dives beneath the water, finally securing everyone inside. Afterward, Umut angrily tells Armin that he lost many men because he and Defn were chasing after a ghost. He makes it clear, he will never forgive them. Hours later, no updates come from the outside world. The mood on the sub is heavy. Officer Baris isn't doing well. He starts hallucinating his mother, showing signs of serious mental distress. Meanwhile, Armin and his friends are given a tour of the submarine and are told about its rules. Suddenly, an alarm blares. The hydraulics have ruptured, causing the entire sub to shake violently. With the engineer dead back at the bank, nobody knows how to fix it. But Armin steps up. Working quickly, he manages to repair the system, stabilizing the submarine. Commander Irene is impressed. To test Armin's skills, he asks him a series of technical questions. After passing with ease, Armin is officially appointed as the new chief engineer. Umut is furious. He warns Armin that if he makes a mistake, he'll personally end him. Officer Alton isn't happy either. He reminds Armin that despite his new title, he has no real authority here. As for Armin's friends, they are given cleaning duty. Felix sighs and tells them, "This is our new normal. I doubt we'll ever be able to return to the surface." Suddenly Alton and a few officers violently kick Felix and grab Sem by the neck, choking him. They blame him for the deaths of their comrades. After throwing insults, they finally release him and order the group to keep cleaning. From afar, Umut watches everything, but does nothing to stop it. Later, Defn tells Armin what happened. But Armin shakes his head. He tells her they need to play along for now. If they fight back, the officers will only get worse. Furious, Defn storms off to report the incident to Irene. But Irene dismisses her concerns, insisting that his soldiers are disciplined and that no one would dare misbehave under his command. Meanwhile, Baris's hallucinations get worse. He claims to see someone crawling inside the vents, but no one believes him. Later, officers discover that some food cans are missing. Alton immediately accuses Defn, confronting her aggressively. But Yanka steps in, defending Defn. Frustrated and angry, Alton gathers the troops and demands that Areni kick out Armin's group, accusing them of stealing from the submarine's rations. Armin steps forward. Instead of arguing, he delivers a powerful speech, reminding everyone that they have all lost loved ones. Instead of fighting each other, they must work together to survive. At that moment, Felix notices something alarming. Baris is holding a hand grenade. Panicked, he rushes to warn the others. Areni and his officers immediately go to Baris's room. But Baris is too far gone. He begins ranting about the world needing a cleansing, saying that Earth must rise again through destruction. He keeps muttering about Judgment Day. Areni realizes what's about to happen. He slams the door shut just in time. A second later, the grenade explodes, killing both Baris and Areni. Alarms blare across the submarine. The explosion has caused several leaks, and the pressure inside the submarine is becoming unstable. If they don't fix it, the entire vessel could implode at any moment. The officers work alongside Armin to stop the leaks. They bring in every tool available, but nothing works. As tensions rise, Sem starts panicking. Alton loses patience, grabs him by the neck, and scolds him. Felix pushes Alton away, telling him to back off. Finally, they realize they can't fix the leaks from the inside. The only solution is for someone to swim outside and seal the submarine from the exterior. Defen warns that the pressure at this depth is extremely dangerous. But Armin insists there is no other choice. Privately, Yanka mourns Areni, her father. Umut interrupts her grief and orders her to go with Armin, as she's the only person with the technical skills to assist. After suiting up, Armin and Yanka grab their equipment and swim out into the deep, dark ocean. As they carefully seal the leaks, something unexpected happens. Yanka is suddenly hit by an anglerfish. The impact knocks her off course, and she loses sight of the submarine. Inside the sub, the lights suddenly flicker out. The switchboard has failed, forcing the crew to activate auxiliary power. While the officers work to restore the main power, Armin finishes sealing the leaks. Then, he frantically searches for Yanka. Just in time, he finds her and guides her back to the submarine before they suffer any pressure damage. As they return inside, they agree to keep the incident a secret. Minutes later, Umut is officially named the new commander. Yanka becomes his second-in-command. Umut announces that their next destination will be the Iskenderun naval base in Turkey. For the next few hours, everyone remains on edge. Felix keeps a close eye on Sem, who is suffering withdrawal symptoms from his addiction. When the submarine arrives at the base, they find police cars abandoned outside. The officers search the entire area, only to find bodies everywhere. They bury the fallen soldiers in a proper military ceremony. As Umut watches, he suddenly sees a young girl among the bodies. He blinks and realizes he's hallucinating. Another officer snaps him out of it, reporting that they checked the latest news updates. The world is in complete chaos. Fires are burning across cities. Sem, feeling hopeless, wanders off for a smoke. From a distance, he sees the city engulfed in flames. His hope fades even further. Back on the submarine, Yanka places a framed picture of Areni on the wall. The others offer a final salute in his honor. Armin and the officers continue working on reinforcing the submarine's safety. Meanwhile, Umut orders a search for food and medicine while he and Rana check the base's computers for more information. In the kitchen, Alton tastes some of the food but complains that it has no flavor. Just then, something moves in the shadows. Alton and Yanka hear a strange noise and go to investigate. Yanka suddenly notices her bag left on the counter is missing. They eventually find a broken can and assume it must have exploded. In the infirmary, Defen notices Sem searching for drugs. She immediately moves him away. But what she doesn't see is Sem secretly pocketing a bottle of pills. Back on the submarine, Felix hears a noise. Curious, he goes to check. He spots an abandoned flashlight. Before he can react, a mysterious woman suddenly pushes him over and runs away. Felix chases after her. She fights back, knocking him down twice before escaping. Realizing they have an intruder, Felix alerts the officers. A team quickly mobilizes and tracks the woman across the base. She manages to overpower several officers, shoving them away before escaping again. Eventually, Felix catches up, only to find himself staring down the barrel of a gun. The woman is Selik. Moments later, the other officers arrive, surrounding her. She has no choice but to drop her weapon. Selik is taken back to the submarine and handcuffed. Felix suddenly remembers Baris's ramblings about someone sneaking around. Looking around, he finds empty food cans hidden in the vents. It's now clear Selik has been on the submarine since the beginning, secretly stealing food. Umut explodes in anger. He demands answers from Selik and even prepares to hurt her to make her talk. Now in custody, Selik finally reveals her identity. She explains that after overhearing her superiors discuss the solar flare disaster, she hid in the vents of the submarine, looking for shelter. While hiding, she observed everyone closely and learned a lot about their personalities and secrets. She even calls out Yanka, revealing that Yanka almost ruined the deep-sea mission. Then, Selleck drops another bombshell: Areni may have been a traitor. She claims that before his death, he was secretly communicating with someone outside the submarine, without telling anyone. Yanka and Umut immediately rush to Areni's quarters. There, they find a hidden compartment containing the commander's log. Inside, they discover a list of names, including Armin's group. Next to every name, it says no affiliation, except for Daphne. Her name is marked with question marks. Suspicious, they show the list to Selleck. Selleck warns them to keep an eye on Daphne, but not let her suspect anything. Meanwhile, Daphne sneaks into the naval base and tries to use a satellite phone to connect to the computers. But nothing works. Moments later, Umut is called to check on two sick officers. Armin realizes that the two men were the ones who dug the graves. Suspecting something is wrong, they turn to Sem, the team's medical expert. To investigate, Sem runs an experiment. He discovers that the food they took from the base tastes like paper. But the food they already had on the submarine tastes normal. Sem concludes that the sun's radiation has corrupted the carbon structure of the food. This means everything they brought from land is useless. And worse, the good food they have left will only last a week. Sem suggests they search for canned food. The metal might have protected it from radiation. Umut orders the troops to search every corner of the base for canned food. Then, he agrees to release Selleck in exchange for her help. Selleck immediately gets to work on the base's computers. She picks up a radio transmission in Spanish. The signal is full of interference, but the only words she can make out are, "May God protect us all." Selleck then hacks into Daphne's file and makes a shocking discovery. Daphne once conducted research on deep-sea habitats for NATO. This means she likely knew about the sun's disaster before it happened. Meanwhile, Yanka tries to befriend Daphne to learn more about her past. But Daphne quickly realizes she's being interrogated. She cuts the conversation short and walks away. Minutes later, the group spots a plane flying overhead. Selleck tracks it through the base computers, while the submarine radio picks up chatter from Russian forces. The Russians are trying to contact the space station. Once the transmission ends, Selleck refocuses on tracking the plane. As she works, Umut quietly writes down a number, but no one sees what it means. Meanwhile, Armin's group discovers a storage room filled with canned food. But when they taste it, they realize it has also gone bad. The troops return from town and confirm the same result: there is no edible food left anywhere. The group gathers in the computer room, where Selleck continues tracking the mysterious plane. Armin studies its flight path and realizes something. The plane is flying west, trying to outrun the sunrise. He believes they should contact the aircraft and join forces. But Umut strongly disagrees. He thinks the plane could be an enemy vessel and threatens to shoot it down if anyone tries to make contact. The submarine prepares to leave. But just before departure, Sem makes a painful decision: he stays behind. His addiction has taken over, and he no longer sees a reason to go on. Even Daphne tries to convince him to come, but he refuses. Later, inside the submarine, Daphne finally breaks down in guilt. She collapses, overcome with emotion, as the reality of everything sinks in. But before he can act, Felix discovers something in the vents. He pulls out Selleck's uniform. Now, the real mystery begins. A moment of weakness. Inside the submarine, Rana starts to struggle with claustrophobia. Sensing her distress, Umut helps her calm down and offers her a drink. As they talk, he admits that she reminds him of his late daughter. Meanwhile, as the sun rises, Sem walks into the ocean, waiting for the inevitable. After an entire day underwater, the submarine finally surfaces at night. They find Sem's body washed up on the shore. His friends take a moment to pay their respects. Back inside, Selleck tracks the plane's location. She finds it in Bulgaria, near a series of dams. The group theorizes that an underground NATO bunker may be hidden beneath the water. At that moment, another Spanish transmission comes through. The message invites survivors to join them at the Gijón mine in Spain and provides coordinates. Umut gathers his men and announces, "We're going to Bulgaria. A military bunker is safer than a mine." Daphne begins to worry that Umut is becoming a dictator, making decisions for everyone without discussion. She's also uneasy about all the weapons being loaded onto the submarine. After departure, Umut secretly checks Areni's log again. Inside, he finds a hidden piece of paper with a code. He tries entering it into the computer, but it doesn't work. Then, he overhears a radio transmission about a group heading to Norway. Without telling anyone, he orders Alton to change course. In her private space, Daphne continues using her laptop. When Armin checks on her, she quickly hides it. He wishes her a happy birthday, and the two become intimate. Moments later, a loud explosion shakes the submarine. Alarms go off, and panic spreads. But Umut reveals it was just a test to keep them alert. He turns off the alarms and announces a new plan. We're going to Norway. Bulgaria's food reserves are empty. Nobody believes him, but Alton backs him up, claiming he heard the same thing on the radio. Umut then mentions the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, also known as the Doomsday Vault. It holds seeds from plants all over the world in case of a disaster. He plans to collect seeds and grow them on the submarine using hydroponics. Armin and Felix confirm it's difficult but possible. But Daphne strongly disagrees. She argues that Spain is a better option. The seeds will take too long to grow, and Norway is a week away. A heated argument follows, but eventually, Umut agrees to stop in Spain first. However, he warns, if anything goes wrong, Daphne and Armin will be held responsible. Later, Daphne secretly uses her laptop again. Selig notices. At the same time, Umut privately gives Alton another secret order. When Alton leaves, Selig sees him too. The submarine reaches Spain, and the group steps onto land, weapons ready. Through loudspeakers, they hear the same mine broadcast. The docks are abandoned, so they hop into cars and follow the signs to the mines. Meanwhile, Selig searches the submarine for clues. She's caught red-handed by Alton. A brutal fight breaks out. After trading punches, Selig gains the upper hand and chokes Alton unconscious. She then finds Daphne's hidden laptop and reads her messages. One message warns Daphne not to trust anyone. But surprisingly, it also reveals that Daphne didn't know about the solar flare. At the mine, they discover the elevator only fits 5 people, forcing them to split up. Inside, security cameras track their every move. After they descend, the remaining team at the entrance is unable to recall the elevator. Suddenly, a survivor emerges and takes an officer hostage. Armin tries to talk him down, but then more survivors appear, surrounding them. It turns out they are miners. They admit they faked the distress message because no one would have come if they had simply asked for help. Armin wants to negotiate. But Umut immediately opens fire. A deadly battle erupts, and the hostage is killed. Felix finds the control room and realizes that someone cut the elevator wires. It'll take time to fix. Hearing the gunfire above, Janka puts on gloves and slides down the elevator cables to help. During the fight, both sides suffer heavy losses. Meanwhile, Daphne stumbles into a tunnel and finds a horrifying sight. The miners are actually cannibals. They have been eating the survivors who followed their signal. When one of them approaches, Daphne hides among the butchered bodies. She breaks a light bulb and covers the mouth of a dying man to stay hidden. A flashlight scans the room, but it's just Janka. Daphne, desperate, wants to free the hostage. The noise alerts a miner, who heads toward them. Felix and Rana watch everything on the cameras and warn them over the radio. Janka and Daphne react just in time. After a struggle, they impale the miner, killing him. In the main room, Umut nearly dies but manages to retrieve his gun and kill his attacker. He fires more shots, scaring off the remaining miners. This saves Armin, who was being overpowered. The group rushes back to the elevator. But Felix reports, "I can't fix it." Instead, they lock the doors to stop the miners from chasing them. Armin searches for another control panel. He finds one and places a pickaxe on it to keep the elevator running. Then, he sprints toward the elevator, grabbing on just as it begins rising. The miners break through the doors just as the elevator leaves. Back at the docks, the group rushes to their cars. But Armin and Daphne's vehicle is missing its keys. They're forced to run back on foot. At the submarine, Felix checks his pockets. The keys are with him. He wants to go back to help, but the officers force him inside. The sun is moments from rising. A few officers stay behind for defense. When they see the miners chasing Armin and Daphne, they immediately open fire. Most cannibals are killed. But Daphne trips. A miner grabs her, holding her hostage. Umut refuses to negotiate. He starts shooting anyway. But he's not fast enough. A miner stabs Daphne in the back before Umut kills him. Armin falls apart, clutching Daphne as she dies in his arms. He refuses to leave her. The officers knock him out and drag him back to the sub before the sun rises. On the submarine, Janka orders them to head to Norway. Meanwhile, Umut finally cracks Ireni's password. He discovers that they were lied to. The officers were told they were on a NATO drill and found Armin's submarine by chance. But it was a lie. Irene always knew this was a search and rescue mission. Their goal was to save Daphne because of her knowledge of underwater habitats. Umut realizes NATO knew about the disaster long before it happened. They had been planning to save themselves at any cost. Suddenly, Armin storms in and attacks Umut. The officers pull him back. Armin screams, begging for it to end. But instead of killing him, Umut orders him to be locked up. A rebellion begins. Seeing Armin locked up, Felix and Rana refuse to work on the seed preparations unless he is freed. But Umut doesn't care. He coldly responds, "Then you won't get fed." Inside the room where Armin is handcuffed, he overhears some officers talking. They mention that 2 torpedo tubes are empty. Meanwhile, Alton tries to get the soldiers to work on the seed project, but no one understands how to make the alternative farming methods work. The truth comes to light. Felix secretly visits Armin and tells him about the story Umut is spreading. Armin asks to speak with Yanka. When Yanka arrives, she reveals something unexpected. She took Defn's dog tags and places them on Armin. Then, Armin shares his suspicion. The tremor they felt the other day, the one Umut called a test, was actually the missing torpedoes. And the bow trim was recalibrated, which makes no sense. Armin believes Umut is sabotaging the mission to gain power. Yanka refuses to believe it. So Armin tells her, "Send Umut here." When Umut arrives, he uncuffs Armin and even gives him food. But Armin doesn't cooperate. Frustrated, Umut loses control. He starts yelling, recalling all the horrors of war that he's seen. He insists that he doesn't want history to repeat itself. Finally, Armin makes a bold offer. "If you want Felix and Rana to work on the seeds, you must leave 2 men behind to make up for Sam and Defn." At first, Umut refuses. But when Armin brings up the missing torpedoes, he blackmails Umut into accepting the deal. Then, Armin does something shocking. He takes the deal back. And reveals that their entire conversation has been broadcast to the entire submarine. The officers are furious. Yanka immediately relieves Umut of his command. But Umut snaps. Furious, he draws his gun and yells at everyone, claiming he did everything for them. No one takes him seriously. So he hands his gun to an officer and forces him to choose. "Shoot Armin or shoot me." The officer freezes, panicked, unsure of who to trust. But Armin steps forward and gives a powerful speech. His words calm the officer down. Finally, Umut is locked away. The soldiers salute Yanka as their new commander. Then, Selik is asked to hack into the system to uncover Ireni's true orders. She finds something shocking: the submarine had been following Defn's all along. NATO had secretly ordered Ireni to rescue her and her team long before the solar flare disaster. There are also coordinates in the Indian Ocean and a mysterious phone number. As the submarine resurfaces in Norway, Yanka uses Defn's satellite phone to dial the number. A man answers. It's Armin's father, Assel. Strangely, he's wearing an astronaut suit, hiding somewhere surrounded by crops. Assel reveals the truth. He gave Defn a fake mission just to get Armin aboard and save him from the catastrophe. Before hanging up, he tells his son, "Come to the coordinates in India. There's a new world waiting for you." Armin tells the others the whole story. He admits that Umut was right. NATO knew about this all along. But Armin doesn't trust his father. He believes they should collect the seeds first and then decide on their next move. Selik visits Umut's cell and starts having second thoughts. She wonders if she should let him out. After all, they need someone cunning to go against Assel. On the surface, Rana and an officer search for the seeds. They spot a plane nearby. The officer tells Rana to hide while he investigates. Meanwhile, Armin enters a building. Inside, he sees a man holding another at gunpoint. The scene looks exactly like something from the show Into the Dark. The gunman sees Armin and without hesitation, he shoots him. Armin falls to the ground, losing consciousness. At the same time, inside the submarine, the alarm suddenly blares. A missile has been launched. And it's coming straight for them. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.